couple months ago, we figured Kentucky was done with the roster. We did all these breakdowns on the wings, on the bigs, and then Kentucky went and added another player to the roster. The 9th best small forward, according to the On3 rankings, Braydon Hawthorne is a Wildcat. The 4-star from Huntington Prep would be a starter at a lot of other schools, and he would at least get significant amount of minutes. At Kentucky, that may not be the case, but that makes this an even better signing for Mark Pope and his staff, because that role he's willing to accept is going to pay off for Kentucky and for Braydon in the very near future.
So, Brandon, Braydon Hawthorne was a last-minute addition. What do you see him bringing to the table this year?
In terms of this year, I think that he's bringing his own development to the table, because he is a guy that I think can be a Kentucky basketball player at some point in his career. He's had a kind of meteoric rise through the national rankings over the course of the last 6, 8, 12 months. He's gotten a lot better, and I think that he's probably a year or so away, just in terms of having that college weight room, getting a lot stronger, putting on the muscle and the physicality to his very athletic, long frame. You're going to see that in some of these clips. Like, this is a guy that moves so fluidly on the court. He's just really, really skinny. You can see it, in his frame right there. And I think that, Braydon Hawthorne at 6'8", 175 pounds or whatever he might be now, and Braydon Hawthorne at 6'8", 190, 195 pounds a year or so from now could be very different basketball players. And I think that's really what you're looking for this season at Kentucky. I don't know if he's going to actually redshirt. That's not really much of a thing anymore in college basketball, just because everybody wants to get through their careers and move on to the professional level. And honestly, this is a guy that probably has a legitimate professional future, I think. So whether he truly redshirts or not is kind of a moot point. I don't really even think that matters from Kentucky's standpoint. But I think that more or less he's going to look at it as a redshirt year, where this guy's going to be going really hard in practice. He's going to be getting extra reps in, maybe even on game days and stuff like that, because he's not going to be expected or needed to play. He's going to kind of be able to be on a different development track than a lot of these other guys, because he can spend so much time in the weight room, so much time in one-on-one workouts with coaches, etc. I think that, to me, this is just a development season for Braydon Hawthorne.
I was just going back to some of these clips, and I like his ball handling skills. I mean, he looks like he's got nice touch on his jumper. And I mean, here's the ball gets knocked away from him here. He picks it up and takes it down the baseline for a floater. He looks like he's got some raw talent that will pay off down the line. I mean, even this move to the basket here, he seems to be, pretty shifty for his height.
He really is. Like I said, I mean, this is a guy that's a very fluid athlete. Like you mentioned, he's pretty advanced really in some one-on-one isolation moves with his ball handling. He can make open shots. And to me, the way I look at it as, with some of these other guys that the Kentucky recruits, whether it's Malachi Moreno or Jasper Johnson, or even going back to Reed Shepard, some of these guys, these weren't all, top 5, top 10 recruits. We're talking about guys that were ranked, in the 20 to 30 range, not so far off of what Braydon Hawthorne was. If Braydon Hawthorne had been ranked 35th his whole career, I think we would all be super excited about getting him. But the fact that he had this kind of meteoric late rise, it's almost like we don't trust the fact that he's the 35th best player in the high school class. And to me, that's just kind of silly. Everybody has different development paths. So the fact that he just got there late doesn't mean that you shouldn't be excited about getting a 4-star, top 40 type of recruit. And when you're Kentucky and you're looking at that being your 13th, 14th, 15th guy on your roster, to me that's really exciting, because you don't need anything from him this year, but then he's allowed to develop sort of at his own pace, and then who knows, a year or two from now you could have a real player on your hands.
Are you surprised that Kentucky gets a kid like this to basically come in and, like you said, not get a lot of minutes? Doesn't it feel like, I'm just watching his tape, that he could help a lot of schools? I mean, there's 315 of them.
Well, yeah, and when you look at some of the schools that were in his final list, I know West Virginia was one of them. That's a place that he could have gone in, probably played minutes at right away. I know that there were some other schools there kind of towards the end where he would have had a chance to play, probably legitimate minutes as a freshman, and certainly would have had an even better path to minutes down the road. So yeah, I think that especially in this day and age, it's a little bit surprising to see a guy kind of trust the process of like, hey, I'm going to go to Kentucky. I'm going to get elite level coaching and training and all this kind of stuff. But I do think though that this is probably where you see NIL be kind of the equalizing factor, where like, maybe Kentucky does see the future well enough with Braydon Hawthorne. They're willing to throw a decent amount of money at him and be like, hey man, like, I know these other places see you as a first-year player. Maybe we don't necessarily see you as that, but we're going to go ahead and pay you as that because we want you for year 2 and year 3. So, I don't know the specifics of what happened in terms of his compensation, but I think that's where you do see NIL potentially, kind of be that, that equalizer where, for him it's like, hey, if I'm getting paid a couple $100,000, what difference does it make whether I'm playing in the games or not? Especially if I'm being, if the coaching staff, which I'm sure this was part of it, where like, Coach Pope and these guys like really thoroughly, because they're so smart and they're so analytically based, like I'm sure they had a very well thought out plan of like, hey, this is what we're going to do year 1. This is what it's going to look like in year 2, year 3, etc. And I think that he was mature enough, and the people around him were mature enough to kind of buy into that. And then we'll see how it works out. But I'm excited about him in the role that he's going to be in. I think it's you're vastly overqualified if you're Braydon Hawthorne for this sort of 13th, 14th, 15th spot.
So what does year? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves maybe, but what does year 2 or 3 look like for Braydon Hawthorne? Do you feel like he's somebody? Is this a potential star in the making by year 3 even? Or do you think that this is does he ever become do you think this is a future starter that we're looking at?
I think it depends on how long he sticks around, whether that's, the professional ranks or the transfer portal. Like, to me, I would probably, I don't think that you take him as a freshman if you don't see him being like a real rotation player in year 2 and then like a potential starter in year 3. Now, obviously, yes, especially in this day and age, it's hard to read the tea leaves because you don't know what you're going to need year from year. You don't know what's going to be available in the portal.
True.
You don't know what you're going to be able to get in high school recruiting. So those things can always change just based on what's available to you, not even your own circumstances. But yeah, I don't think that Kentucky would have invested in him and is going to invest in him what they're going to have to invest in him as a freshman if they don't see him. I don't think there's probably looking at him being Otega Owe as a junior necessarily, but I think they're looking at him being a real piece as a sophomore and junior, or else you just wouldn't go after a guy like this in this situation, I don't think.
Braydon Hawthorne is just another reason to be excited about the future of the Kentucky basketball program. We will be back for another breakdown soon. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.